Folks, welcome into That Betting Show, March 11th, 2019. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. This is That Betting Show, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs right here at sportsbookreview.com. Action-packed show today. Antonio Brown shipped off in the middle of the night, not by Amazon, but by the Steelers out to the Raiders. And the big boys are going to take the court this week as some Power 5 matchups dime into play. Teddy, hot topic of the day. We watched over the weekend. Spots filling up in the tournament. And you're going to get those March bad beats. You're going to get those March crazy comebacks in the ultimate rock fight yesterday, Teddy, with Northern Iowa and Bradley. An 18-point lead. Might as well have been a 40-point lead in other basketball leagues. Not the case in this one. A comeback all the way back down the stretch, and Bradley backers run to the trash can to get their RIP tickets.
Yeah, they sure do. Cash the -1.5 before Bradley at the close, despite being down 18 in the second half. No sweat, no fuss. Bradley cashed. Yeah. Wisconsin cashed too. They blew a 23-point lead yesterday in the second half, forced into overtime. But the extra 5 minutes, hey, no problem. Badgers win, Badgers cover. No sweat there, huh?
No, it was crazy. You also saw a nice comeback by Delaware yesterday. But taking a look at those two teams, NIU with a lead of those proportions, or should I say UNI, you could always get them confused with the Huskies. They just slow it down. They make the right move. They don't turn it over. So when I saw the 18 Teddy at first, I wasn't even going to tune back into the second half. I'm like, that game's over.
Sure.
Just get to the next one. Then you see the comeback coming down the stretch, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And also a key ingredient in that game, a 6-point possession in a 1-point game by Bradley called on a flagrant foul late.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, obviously. But when it comes to comebacks, pace has so much to do with it. The teams that go up and down the court, guess what? Much easier to have a double-digit comeback win. A team like Northern Iowa and Bradley, a game that's being played at a snail's pace, things have to go very, very right on possession after possession after possession to race that 18-point lead. That's exactly what happened with the Bradley Braves yesterday.
You know, it's interesting too, Teddy. Every time, you bet a basketball game and you have that lead, let's just say you're in a game like that spread, -1 Bradley. You have a nice double-digit lead at the half, and you're saying, why did it have to be halftime right now? Because all the momentum changes up, and you see it quite because they're still kids. It's 18, 19, 20. There's a lot of pressure in these games. Get ready for more of that stuff in March Madness. But I'll tell you, who shouldn't have been under pressure yesterday, Teddy? That was the Golden State Warriors, and -17 at home. If you've watched that betting show, which we know you have, we've talked about those money burners out for the Warriors. My goodness, what an epic collapse last night, losing to the Suns.
Yeah, and this is a stat I was not able to independently confirm this. Nonetheless, it's still a good stat to put out there. Teams that were underdogs of 17 points or more over the last 20 seasons in the NBA, there have been 86 instances. One of those teams won straight up. Well, now it's 2 of those teams won straight up after Phoenix did it yesterday. Not easy for a plus $1,500 ticket on the money line to cash. And again, you had to shop around for that. But that was at the Superbook USA right here in Vegas, plus $1,500. If you had the Suns on the money line at plus $1,400, you're not going to be killing yourself for not getting that extra value. But, we saw Steve Kerr essentially what appears to be him cursing out Draymond Green. For the lip readers out there talking a lot about that this morning. It's a Warrior team, as you mentioned, continues to be the single worst point spread team in the entire NBA this season. Obviously, they didn't change yesterday when they lost straight up. Klay Thompson, quote, probably the worst loss of the season, unfortunately. Yeah, when the best team in the league loses at home to the worst team in the league, you can count that as one of the worst losses of the season. No question about it. Golden State, I'll tell you, they're going to be priced next time like a team on a mission. I'm not backing them. I'm not laying points with them. Not this better.
One of the first times, Teddy, that in the NBA, you don't get very many coaching sessions that you can use and get the players' attention. Now, maybe for once, just sleepwalking through the season, you can say, look, it's got to stop now. We just lost at home to the Suns. And a huge streak snap, too. 18-game streak. Wasn't long ago, Teddy, that the longest streak in the NBA was those Philadelphia 76ers and Oklahoma City Thunder. But now that one snaps it back. So I'm sure somebody out there is with a 13-14 game ready to take the lead in that one. Interesting, Teddy, NFL always continues. We're now in the tampering period of free agency, but a trade was made over the weekend. Antonio Brown gets shipped off to the Oakland Raiders with a big contract, a 3rd and a 5th round pick. There's a lot to go over in this deal because if you're looking from the outside and you say, well, what a great move by the Raiders. They pick up a, veteran receiver who's dominated over the past couple of years, only gave a third and a fifth up, but there's so much more, Teddy, to this story.
Sure. I mean, there are some things to like about Oakland, being that when you look at the overall term, they traded Amari Cooper for a first rounder. They get Antonio Brown for a third and fifth rounder. That's, good deals in that sense of the picture. However, when you look at and the other issue with Oakland is they have plenty of salary cap space. They didn't spend anything in free agency last year. Tons of space to sign Antonio Brown. And it's obviously a team that any team can use a playmaking wide receiver. But when you look at the Raiders and look at the number of holes that team has to fill this offseason, spending big money on a marquee wide receiver that's not going to win you a title. They're 80-1 to win the Super Bowl next year. In my mind, it's not as much of a fleecing as some of the media are giving Oakland credit for. When it comes to fleecing their trade partners, Raiders haven't done that a whole lot in the last 20 years.
No, and I completely agree with your point on that because when you see out there on the outlook, the fantasy football players say, oh, my goodness, how could you give up on Antonio Brown? He's going to the Raiders. If I'm looking at Antonio Brown, because you're going to take the malcontent of the wide receiver, there's no question he dominates on the field. There's no question he's going to put up numbers next year. But if you are the Oakland Raiders, I thought they were heading, Teddy, down the right path, heading to Las Vegas, slashing salary cap, gaining draft picks. We'll see if we can win next year, but it's more important down the line when we really make that push. We're going to have this young core ready to go. So you add the aging veteran in there, you sign him to some money. I like the free agent signing they picked up today with the left tackle out of New England. But this one says to me, Ted, if you're going to add a wide receiver of this caliber at this age, at this money, you're making the playoff push. You're making the Super Bowl run. That's not going to be the case. So if you're telling me when we go to Vegas in 3 or 4 years, we're ready to make that run, well, now you have a $20 million wide receiver who's 35 years old. I completely disagree with the move. It's nice for, hey, we got Gruden, we got Mayock, we got Brown now. Come watch us play. That's fine. But if that adds from 4 wins to 5 wins or 6 wins, what was the actual point of it?
And the other issue is that it's not like the Raiders have to get a guy to sell tickets. All right?
Yes.
This next year, they're going to sell whatever they sell in Oakland, and that it is going to be what it is, whether Antonio Brown's there or not. When they come to Vegas, they're going to sell out the first 3 years, 5 years, however many years. Doesn't matter how superstar-laden your roster is. For Oakland, it's about making moves to compete and making moves to win over the long term. I don't see that in this deal. I really don't. This is a flashy move for right now to placate the fan base. And come on, Mayock and Gruden, these are 2 TV guys who are now being charged with running a franchise. Good luck, guys. Knock yourselves out.
Yep, right into the WWE out there. First look, Major League Baseball, Teddy. Look at this. It's March 11th, March 20th. Major League Baseball gets underway for real as we continue our countdown to opening day. The Texas Rangers, 67-95 in 2018. They head into 2019, Teddy, is 200-1 on a ticket to win the 2019 World Series. The Rangers team total listed at 70.5, which is, boy, that's really low. That's an improvement from last year's 67 wins. The one thing you have to like about the outfield, you're going to get some decent center field play. They're going to get some pop in their bats, but not a lot of average. The Mercurial, as we like to say, what? Joey Gallo, 40 bombs, fantastic. 206, not so fantastic. A rotation with a lot of question marks, bullpen with question marks. Still not ready for that new ballpark. It's going to be a hitter's, parade as it's been the past couple of years. Tough times ahead for those Rangers, Teddy.
Yeah, probably. I mean, GM John Daniels, he's the second longest tenure of any GM in MLB behind Brian Cashman of the Yankees. He's been around 15 years now. He wouldn't call it a rebuild. He says we're in development mode, which means they're in a rebuild. A brand new skipper, Chris Woodward. They interviewed 14 different candidates for the manager job before they were happy. This is the Dodgers' third base coach from last year. They didn't get him until after the World Series. When you look at the lineup, you say, all right, you got Gallo can hit for power. Andrus can still hit. Odors can still play. The Shield, since you chew, has never lived up to expectations. But there's some hope there. You look at the pitching staff. Again, Mike Minor, Lance Lynn, Drew Smyly, Edison Volquez. It's not hopeless. It's not great. It's not good, but it's not hopeless. And when you look at Texas coming into the season, it feels like they're being priced as a hopeless team. I'm not convinced that's the case. I think the Mariners are worse, and I think there could be at least a little bit of money to be made backing the Texas Rangers this year, and I'm looking forward to betting some of these games up and over the total in the hot summer months in Arlington. No surprise here if the Rangers are a slugfest team throughout the hot summer months.
No question about it. Sometimes, Teddy, in baseball season, you got to lay down with the dogs with fleas in order to make some of that money. Texas Rangers could be one of those teams. Overnight line movers, SBRodds.com, the best single place on the internet to check when those lines are moving. 365, 24/7. And look at this, Teddy. The Raptors open off short, minus 10.5, sink to 8.5, rebound back to 9. Cavaliers getting a little bit of early love here on the home court, but it looks like some of that activation now of Kawhi Leonard playing in this game, you might see a little bit of a bite back there. But Raptors on the road should win this game. But again, we'll see if they can cover that line.
Yeah. Kawhi sat yesterday in Miami. Didn't make a difference. The Raptors had no problem. They ran over the Heat literally from the opening tip, won that game by 21. Nick Nurse seems a little bit concerned about some uneven play. He's not happy with, Fred VanVleet is still out. He's not back for another 10 days. Quote, I can really see big leaps forward, then a step back. We've got to get to that point where it's just steady steps going forward and not that step back. They took a step forward, obviously, yesterday, but they had lost 3 out of 5 before knocking off New Orleans and Miami to open up this road trip. Look, the Cavs have played decent ball. 4-4 since the All-Star break. They could be 7-1 during that span. They've blown a bunch of games late in this point spread range. You don't worry so much about the Cavs blowing a game late. If they're competitive for most of the game, they're likely to cover at the end.
Taking a look here at some action, Teddy, as we open up even more conference tournaments this week. The big boys get ahead of schedule a little bit later in the week, but we're going to take a look here. Keep in mind, in action play, the first round games are played on the higher seeds home court before they move into Cleveland. Western Michigan getting a little bit of early love versus Central Michigan. One of the more interesting games, Teddy, because you get a finish up on Friday, March 8th, which obviously was this past Friday. You played Western Michigan and Central Michigan. Now you get the rebound game. And it's coming to play tonight. 82-75 winner on Friday night with Central Michigan. Now we're looking to back it up. Line opened up, Teddy, as high as minus 10, but dipping to that 8.5 range. More factor, more focus. There is no tomorrow in this game. Should be a decent one here in the MAC.
It could be. The Chippewas were much, much better than the Broncos this year. One team's 21-10, one team's 8-23. Western Michigan went 2-16 in conference this season. And then again, they just lost at home on Senior Day to the same Central Michigan squad that they have to face tonight. And again, it was only a 7-point win, and if they lose by 7 tonight, they'll get the money. There was one factor in that game that I think, the money coming in on the dog here probably has to do with just a short turnaround revenge. But there's one factor that you may want to know before you bet this one. In that game over the weekend, when the Chippewas won by 7, it was a tight game. And then there was 8 minutes left in the first half. One of the officials collapsed on the floor. He had like a heart attack, and the game was paused for a full hour. After the hour, the good team was ready to play. The bad team wasn't. Central came out on a 10-0 run, and it was ball game right there. So maybe that mitigating circumstance from the meeting over the weekend has given bettors some confidence that the kids from Kalamazoo can hang with the Chippewas from Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, last 6 games, 5 out of 6 games, they've been pretty competitive, Teddy. Take a look at Miami of Ohio beating them in overtime, losing to Eastern Michigan by 1 in overtime. NIU game, 5-point game. Ball State, 2-point game. Toledo waxed them by 19, but then Central Michigan at 7. And again, you're in tournament play, so you never know how some of these kids are going to react. Get a little bit more nervous. Maybe the 3 balls don't go down. But we're looking from a matchup perspective. CMU can shoot the 3. Western Michigan struggles with that. We'll see how it ends up here in the MAC tonight. Segment number 3, watch what you bet. The Hornets head to Houston to take on the Rockets. Hornets getting 9 points total, 224.5. Moneyline split plus 290, minus 360. NBA TV tonight, live, Teddy, from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, the Hornets aren't beating a whole lot of good teams these days. You look at the last couple of months. They've beaten the Knicks, they beat the Grizzlies twice, the Hawks, the Wizards, the Bulls. Their only win against a decent team, really, since the calendar turned to 2019, came in a serious revenge spot in Brooklyn. After the Nets stole a win in a controversial ending game in Charlotte a couple of days earlier. In addition, we saw some early money for Charlotte. Now we're seeing the money back on Houston. That has everything to do with the injury situation for tonight. Charlotte doesn't look like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is going to be able to play. He's got a knee injury. But the key, 2 guys out for tonight, Cody Zeller and Marvin Williams, who's obviously been their second and third best players over the course of the last month. Williams has got the flu. Zeller's got a knee injury. These are impact injuries. for a team that's not loaded with quality depth. As I said, we're talking about Charlotte. Frank Kaminsky's been on a recent surge. This is a guy that was getting DNP coaches' decisions for a good portion of the season. They forced him, and he's actually played fairly well. I don't know if he matches up well against the Rockets. There is some concern here about the spot for Houston, however. On the second of back-to-backs, off a 1-point win against Dallas yesterday, a game where they did not shoot well. They have the Golden State Warriors up next, and Charlotte's sitting players tonight. So you worry about Houston perhaps looking past the Hornets, but the Rockets don't look past the Hornets. They can probably name the score in this one.
Looking past people, looking past Wofford, Teddy. Not too smart if you're a SoCon opponent. 20-0 in the conference, and most of those wins, Teddy, by destruction, terror, and mayhem. They're going to line up tonight here where it says UNC Greensboro, favored by 7, total of 139.5, money line split of plus 250, minus 300. When you look at Wofford, Teddy, most people, Wofford, is that what, Division 2, Division 3? If you look at their schedule, they have 4 losses. Well, they lost 4 times. How good can they be? North Carolina, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Mississippi State with their 4 losses, and then ran roughshod over. Should be a nice game tonight, but here's the interesting part that we always like to take a look at, Teddy, when you're spot betting some of these things. Wofford is in the tournament, or so we think, that everybody says, you know what, if they just get to the SoCon title game, they're going to lose, they'll get an at-large bid. Not the case for the team they're playing in UNC Greensboro. Does it make a ton of a difference in the grand scheme? Not really, but maybe that little extra edge they're playing with. Wofford 10-1 their last 11 games against the number. Greensboro not so bad, Teddy, 7-3 in their last 10.
Yeah, and Wofford's taken all the money so far. And you could say they're in revenge because they lost to NC Greensboro in the semifinals of the SoCon last year, 56-55, a heartbreaker for Wofford a season ago. But on the other hand, the real revenge took place during the regular season. The 2 meetings between these 2 teams, well, Terriers won 72-43 on the road. They won 80-50 at home. So when you're beating this opponent both times by 30, 29 and 30, I'm not surprised that we've seen the money come towards the favorite in this matchup. The 6s, all gone. The 6.5s, mostly gone. We're looking at 7s now across the board. And Wofford, I understand the concept. Oh, if they lose, the league gets 2 bids. In theory, does Wofford want to take that chance? And can they lose to a team that they've completely dominated the first 2 meetings? I'm not willing to bet on it. It's chalk or pass for this better. But again, this is not a conference that I know inside and out. I'll defer to your opinion, Donnie, because my opinion here, not a strong one.
Yeah, Mike Young and the boys down there. It's funny because, I like to talk conspiracy theories. I have a lot of fun with it. But if you're thinking like that Wofford, like these kids are trying to win a conference championship and make their way to the title. Like, hey, you know what? It'd be really nice if Greensboro, our brothers from the conference, could get in with us here. Sure, guys, go ahead and beat us. We'll see you a little bit later in the tournament. Not going to happen in this one. This is a good team. And they're playing for records, Teddy. This isn't like, hey, boy, we ran through. Remember the New England Patriots Super Bowl? You run all the way through. You're going to go undefeated. You lost the Super Bowl. Nobody talks about that team. Yes, they had an undefeated regular season, but you got to put the cap on it. We ran roughshod through this division, went 21-0 and won the conference championship before moving on. That's what they want to do here. Off the mic segment, Teddy, talking about college basketball moving forward now. TV commercials are going to start to ramp in, but as always at this time of the year, the people that don't watch a ton of college basketball get re-ingratiated to what's going to take place. And what do I mean? Constant stoppages of play. Did this guy get elbowed in the head? Did he swing at this guy? When they went up, which type of foul was this? And my favorite of all time, Teddy, is the review only under 2 minutes, which leads you to believe that the ball goes out of bounds with 4 minutes is not as important as the one that goes out of bounds at 1:59. Get ready for the commercials, get ready for the reviews, and get ready for the broadcaster saying, why was this taking so long?
Yeah, and get ready for us to be clicking the channels, because that's the way it works. I mean, I understand the concept. You want to get calls right. It's not just getting calls right. You have to get calls right in a timely fashion. If you're not doing it quickly, by spending 18 minutes figuring out if the ball deflected off this guy or that guy, you're burning your audience. You're burning your fans. That's not what we want. Yes, we want right calls. We also want quick calls, which means if you can't determine, I don't care. What do you want to give him 30 seconds? Do you want to give him 45 seconds? Don't give him 8 minutes. I'll tell you that. If you can't figure it out quick, call stands. That's the way it should work. It's not going to work that way. Enjoy the delays and keep that clicker ready because it doesn't matter how many TVs you have. This week, There'll be games on every TV and games to click to during the commercials. It is one of the most insane and funnest weeks of the entire betting year. Get ready. Not next week, not the big dance. All these little dances going to be a lot of fun between now and Selection Sunday.
A lot of fun this week on That Betting Show. Today's show, March 11, 2019. In the can, your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. We'll carry you right through March Madness here at sportsbookreview.com. If you haven't done so yet, please check out the website. Give us a follow. Subscribe on YouTube and on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks. On Twitter for Teddy Savransky. He's at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. This has been That Betting Show for March 11th, 2019. See you tomorrow. Folks, do you want to go to the Final Four with sportsbookreview.com? How to participate? Very simple here. Screenshot of your selected prop bet on Heritage's tool. Include the words "I'm in." Tag at SBR Sports Picks on Twitter and the person you want to take with you to a trip to the Final Four. Teddy, that sounds like a great time.
Dude, it's a trip to the Final Four. It's airfare. It's hotel rooms. And it doesn't cost anything. My God. This would be a trip or a package that I'd want to win, legitimately, now, today. I didn't screenshot, though. You better do it, Donnie.
Yep, one potential winner will be selected in random drawing held on March 25th, 2019 from all eligible entries. The prize contains, Teddy, 2 NCAA Final Four all-session tickets, 4 nights in a hotel, 2 plane tickets. Don't miss out here at sportsbookreview.com. We want to send you to the Final Four.